Hi, so this film I call the second of the Jarvis Trilogy, Friday Part 5 of course. After Part 4, the fans might be thinking, well, what next, right? But it certainly wasn't this. This movie though is much like the first in the sense that it's about a parent taking vengeance over their child. And I want to draw a line of connection between the first one and the fifth one that I think some fans, I'm sure a lot of you have noticed this as well, or picked up on it, the aspect of how similar it is. So it's about the vengeance of a child, Pam Voorhees, Jason, and then, sorry for spoilers or whatever, but this movie is 30 years old, so too bad, but Roy avenging his son. So I'd like to keep in the tone of defending this movie because it gets flack for not being part of the series, kind of the black sheep in a way. You could argue the later ones are. But I feel that it does keep consistent with the plot, and I'll explain why later. But some have unfairly compared it to Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and I'm guilty of that too. However, this is a completely poor comparison in my mind. So, let's just take a moment, brief voiceover, and I'll explain why, okay?
The Halloween series started off in the first two parts with essentially just Michael. Dr. Loomis and Laurie, of course, were in that as well. But essentially the first two parts of Halloween were in the same night. Other channels, including myself, have pondered what the series could have been if they had taken an anthology approach, each Halloween story being a separate story. This only makes sense with Halloween because you could argue that the first story had to be in two parts to resolve the issue in the story at hand. This is impossible for Part 5 because we're far too extended into the series' history to change something that's barely related. What a letdown that would be. It'd be like if The Matrix 4 was something like The Truman Show. I don't know, that's the closest analogy that I can make that would make sense at all. Besides that, the only way that they could change this up is if they used the mysterious father Elijah to fill in for Jason. Bringing the whole family into it, although someone informed me that there was a brother, I'm not sure if that's true, because to my knowledge he only had a half-sister, Diana, from the shittiest movie in the series. Yes, even worse than Jason Goes to Space. I'd rather see him as himself, at least for the first half, before Cyberdyne created some psychotic Terminator. But that beats out the plot of having all these shit-ass acting performances by people possessed by Jason. It's ridiculous and embarrassing. We'll get to that. Sorry for my rant. My point is that Part 5 continues with a previous character aside from Jason to appear in consecutive films that actually still apply to the plot. To me, this film, it's as legit as the rest, with an interesting storyline. That being said, let's roll on with Friday the 13th in the beginning. Which makes no sense because apparently the beginning lasted one movie, so it should be called Part 5 The Anomaly or something. Anyway, enough of that.
Alright, so a bit on the characters. Well, first of all, there's, I think, Paul. He's the camp director. Not really a lot to say about Paul. Kind of a filler character in my mind. He looks like he should be part of the cast of like Family Ties or something like that, if you ever saw that show. Pam actually plays a very significant part in the film. She's genuinely concerned about the kids, and she does a great job of portraying that, and she's easy to like in the film. So as far as Pam goes, I really like her. Then there's Reggie the Reckless. To tell you the truth, he's annoying. He's like this happy-go-lucky, nothing phases him. Especially the part where he takes whatever, the tractor or whatever. It's, first of all, where the hell did he learn to drive a tractor? But he's up there, so fine. Maybe he does the odd. Who would let like a 10-year-old drive a tractor anyways? But aside from that, he's kind of a pointless character. Yeah, he survives to the end, but like honestly, if you've seen the movie, what the hell is he really doing? I mean, yeah, he drove a truck into Roy, who was playing Jason, fine. But other than that, like it's just like, okay, here's a scene with Reggie, on with the movie. And that's essentially what it is all the time. He's just this side character that allows for extended scenes. He's like, we'll use Reggie in this one particular scene to kind of leap to another one. And that's essentially all that character plays. Why didn't they pick somebody that looks at least a little bit like Corey Feldman? I know Corey Feldman's career was heading in a different direction, and his reasons for not reappearing in the film, which would have completely changed the complexion of that film. I don't know for the better or the worse, but it would have been more consistent, and people probably wanted to see Corey Feldman, especially in retrospect, more than whoever the hell this guy was playing. It's almost like saying, it's almost like Sean Connery playing Macaulay Culkin as a kid. I understand the age difference, but the appearances don't even line up. Anyways, so the best character, in my opinion. Let's just talk about Ethel for a moment. She has the best lines in the movie.
Don't you come near me, Sheriff. I warn you. I got a bomb on me. I swear to you. You make one move toward me, I'm gonna blow us all up.
I was thinking, though, who slept with Ethel in order to produce her son anyway? I mean, how would you approach this woman? If you've seen the film, I don't think she's too receptive to dates, although whatever, but that's something I always pondered. Who was the sucker that got involved in this? And he knows he's not still around. I mean, it's just her and her son, so I imagine he split. I don't know. Anyways, and her son, there's this one scene where he's throwing a hissy fit. She's yelling at him through the window. She's like, "Come here, eat my stew." She spits in the stew too, which is just gross. He's driving around like over the porch with this dirt bike and around. They're arguing back and forth through the window. There's music playing, jump cuts, and all of a sudden he gets his head cut off. She's still yelling. She gets killed through a window. It is the most chaotic. Excuse me. It is the most chaotic scene in the entire series, I think, because it's just there's so much going on, and you're watching two nutballs try to talk to each other. Well, a nutball kills a nutball, so they're a bunch of nuts. And that just watch the scene, and when you watch that scene, just think about how many different things are going on. She's conversing with the son. He's crying about getting beat up. She's not concerned with that. She's talking about her stew. He gets his head cut off. She says a few more funny, like it's a crazy scene. It really is. The acting in this film is really bad, and I mean really bad. I can't really blame them because the lines that they were given were really poor. Just pay attention to just the language back and forth. It's very forced, very expected, transparent. It's not really transparent because they're not trying to. It's predictable, and it's just like automatic responses. Like somebody is writing the script and they make a good point, and then they just insert a line just to kind of lead into another point of the conversation.
I mean, you act like you made these things or something.
I did.
Solid.
So I love how there's traffic in the forest that I'm in. Anyways, they didn't take the opportunity to take Reggie's lines, as annoying as he was. Maybe it's to our benefit he didn't have more lines. But at the same time, he provided no substance to the film at all. So, as far as I'm concerned about that. They did the best for what they had. I don't think it was terribly great actors with not very good lines. So, It's not good. Worst case scenario for Tommy too. He shows up at this mental health facility, and what's the first thing he sees is a friggin' axe murder. It's exactly what he experienced, and of course he's gonna go like, you know, do the stare thing again and zone out and picture Jason everywhere or whatever. But earlier on in the film, if you didn't, I don't know how old the people are that are watching this. Maybe you did see it in theaters. I don't know how old you are, but you would have had to know that Roy was the probable culprit. I mean, he doesn't say much. They play certain tones of music when you see him, even though he's not talking, and the expression on his face. So this film had not unlike number 1 and number 2, where you had the kind of the whodunit feel. They could have had the same thing, but they subtly gave it away too quickly, and they missed an opportunity to kind of keep you guessing a little bit more. So I honestly think they dropped the ball on that. So it could have been a whodunit, kind of messed that up, got a little bit predictable. I know this sounds like I'm getting away from defending the film, because I do think it's a quality film, but they kind of blew that one. Everybody knew that it was Roy. Come on, like, you knew, even if it was your first time watching it a couple years ago. Obviously you have background information on the series and the history and all that, so you're expecting it. But at the same time, for the time, man, run with that idea, because it really worked for number 1 and number 2. 3 and 4, okay, fine, we got Jason. 5, this is the new beginning. So a couple random characters. Some of you might get this reference if you've seen the movies or not. One is, actually they're both a little bit obscure. So we have, I forget the name, I think it was Linguini in Hamburger Hill. So if you've seen Hamburger Hill, Alphabet's in this one. Prior to Hamburger Hill, I think Hamburger Hill came out not too long after that. And then I forget the name of this guy that I'm probably showing you in a graphic right now, but he was on a show called Tour of Duty. So there's a real Vietnam War theory or theme going on here. I don't think it was intentional, obviously, because it has nothing to do with the Vietnam War. Anyways, just to reiterate, Tommy's really messed up throughout this. I got to keep kind of putting that in to maintain what's going on, kind of. And who wouldn't be messed up? I mean, it's not every day that a hockey mask killer comes by and kills your family. But there's this one thing that strikes me as incredibly odd and pointless and absurd, and I fail to understand the reactions of the characters. So anyways, Violet comes in during breakfast, and she sets down 2 extra plates, one for the Psycho and one for Joey, and everyone's like, you set 2 extra plates? Like, oh, what's wrong with you? This is insane. And they go on and on and on.
Violet, you set too many places. Huh? I said you set too many places. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Oh, God. I'm sorry.
You don't set a place for a dead person.
I said I was sorry.
And it's just like, you know, like, take it from a 10 to a 2. It's not that big of a deal. It's just 2 extra plates. Just take them. Oh yeah, I forgot. Take them off the table. But no, everybody at the table is just like, I can't believe that there's 2 extra plates at the table. How did she forget that? That's so insensitive. She just set 2 fucking plates on a table, man. Relax. It's not that big of a deal. And I love how they treated him like absolute shit.
Chloe.
Hi, Violet.
Huh?
Hi. What are you doing?
Doing laundry, Joey.
Can I help? I'm really very good at doing laundry. Matt never assigns it to me. I don't know why.
Look, Joey, we really have to get this thing finished, okay?
Throughout the first part of the movie, you know, get lost, you're a loser, you can't help, get away. And I get it, he's annoying, he's slow, there's something wrong with him mentally. But at the same time, you picked on him so intently. And then all of a sudden,
Miss Joey already.
So do I.
the next day, I miss Joey already. Okay, you're phony, for one, because if you're expressing that much concern for him, why didn't you express this when he was actually alive? In fact, if you had let him do the laundry with you, he wouldn't have gone up to that axe murderer guy. So, you know, go figure. They're just a bunch of phonies. So I guess that's all I have to say about that. They're freaking phony, and it really pisses me off. Like, and that's in real life too. You ever notice this? I'm sure some of you have had family members where nobody can stand them, and they piss everybody off. They're assholes, this and that. That's not the case with Joey. They just didn't like him, and then all of a sudden they're dead, and they're the greatest people in the world. It happens with music and movies and everything like that. All of a sudden they die, and actually check out record sales. When somebody dies, the record sale goes up. So this is kind of systemic with or whatever you call it, endemic, systemic, whatever, with human nature, that all of a sudden this huge amount of guilt comes across, or you're just being phony and trying to show concern. That whole scene just pisses me off, because I'm like, you're all a bunch of liars. So anyways, so the hell with the characters. I'm glad that they're all dead. And anyways, like, well, I probably won't show you all the kill scenes, but okay. So what I was saying before, honestly, you know, Tommy's messed up. I don't really need to go into detail with that, because you saw part 4, more than likely. And so yeah, he's messed up. We don't have to address it again. I was talking about Roy earlier, and how obvious it was that he was the culprit. Prior to the possible whodunit they could have gone with. His close-up shot after his son Joey dies, you see this expression on his face. What else could it mean besides this particular person is affecting that person? And then when they say he has no family, I mean, it just becomes very apparent after that yes, obviously this has to be the case. And then the murders become a little bit more, you make the connection, basically. You know what's strange about when they pull out his wallet and they see the son, his son's grown up. Where did he get that picture? Because as far as I know, he must have left when he was young.
Woodpile was Roy's son. God only knows why Roy kept it hidden all these years.
Which, way to go, Dad, for abandoning your kid. But how did you get that picture of him at his current age? Did you go to the clinic and ask for, like, do you see what I mean? Like, at what point would you have acquired this? Because, wow, candles make it pink. That can't be good for you. Like, at what point would you have acquired this? It's like having a long-lost brother, but you have a current picture of him. There was no Facebook back then to download. Anyways, so people made that connection, and this guy, the driver, at the beginning of the movie, this guy is just so sleazy. His girl is your typical, you know, dumbass blonde, but you know, whatever. I think he's married because I see a ring on his finger, you know, blowing the car, so whatever. Anyways, so we know this girl, her breasts don't have bad breath, apparently. And that's weirder than perfume crotch from number 2, what was that, number 2? So, I don't know, if you catch what I was saying in the earlier ones, I called it perfume crotch, but I guess this girl would be perfume cleavage. It's not perfume, it's friggin', it's Banaka. Who puts Banaka on their cleavage? What the hell is there? I can almost end the review right there. Look how absurd this is. I'm still maintaining that it's a good movie, but Banaka. Interesting. Yeah, so, and then she does this thing later on where, you know, the guy gets killed or whatever, and then she jumps, she's cold, so she jumps into a car with open windows. Yeah, smart move. Why don't you roll up the window, and there's obviously still keys in the car, so turn the heat on. You're sitting there going, gee whiz, it's cold. Well, roll up the window. Roll it up. What's so hard about that? Roll up his window. They're not even power windows. They're just, you know, it's 1980, what, 85. Just roll them up. And that's a little bit where she sits in the car and she... then there's the mayor.
The mayor is a bit of a character. First of all, he's talking down to the sheriff, saying,
I mean, this is a small town, man. And small towns are supposed to be safe.
this ain't what small towns are about. Well, first, he doesn't look like someone who's the mayor of a small town. He looks like he should be the mayor of New York or something. But that being said, the small town thing. Is he aware of the decades of fires at the camp, murders, the recent truckload of murders in the town's history? I guess he just frickin' slipped his mind. That aside, it's confusing this movie because they give you no real answer. The mayor overacts so much it's almost embarrassing. On the other hand, it is entertaining. This part with the mayor, he uses an ashtray to symbolize that Jason was cremated. This confused people with Jason being dug up in the 6th movie. That aside, it's confusing this movie because they give you no real answer.
Tommy's almost as high string as Jesse from Nightmare 2. Now I understand he's got PTSD or something like that, of that nature, so fine. He's really messed up, it's understandable. Jesse, yeah, sure, some guy's haunting him in his dreams, but he's just so high strung. But Tommy takes the cake because there's just more going on in his head, I guess. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, which van do you think is cooler? There's the van from Part 2 where it's like the shag interior, they got the pot smokers, whatever. Pretty cool van, a little bit more spacious. And then there's one from Part 5, which almost looks like a live-in van. But not ready yet. But I heard that. But they're pretty cool. So leave your messages in the which one do you think is cooler in the comments below, because I'm curious, just for the hell of it. Also, when did Tommy turn into Chuck Norris? Like, I mean, he had some pretty impressive moves in number 5. Twice. One with that, you know, he goes under the guy, flips him, and then of course the guy that looks like Dennis Quaid from Independence Day. He kicks the shit out of him, and it goes on from there. But in Part 6, you know, he just looks like a regular dude that doesn't have these skills. He didn't pull any moves on Jason. Non-ninjesque. Is that a phrase? Is that a word? Probably not. But I don't know. Maybe they needed, like, you know, Mr. Miyagi to come in there for Part 6 and like train up, working the bag. I'm just going to go on a tangent if I start talking about that. One thing I have to say though is when Part 5 comes in, arguably for the rest of the series too, but especially when Part 5 comes in, it does lose that Friday the 13th feel. It really does seem like a spin-off, and it is directly related to the plot of the series and keeping consistent, but I acknowledge it doesn't have that Friday feel. That being said, check this out. The car won't start. Amazing. What an infrequent problem in horror films. Who are the mechanics for these people? And then we have this type of kill again. I mean, through the chest. So Roy is really keeping with Jason's MO. And I guess the film does this to kind of bring back the whodunit thing. But again, they ruined that at the beginning, so it doesn't make sense. Violet, once again, she's just a secondary character. She's breaking some moves in her room. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be the robot. Is it the robot? What exactly is she doing? She's doing some kind of weird. I can't explain that. But she does a good job, I guess. It looks rather in sync and groove and planned. Although it's not like the robot, it's more like a mime. She's like pulling a rope at some point. Anyway, Roy comes in as Jason, and so he lifts Violet off the ground with one arm like that. And so now, you know, Jason is strong, but how strong is Roy? That's impressive. And then if you come to think of it, Roy's avenging his son, right? So he's out there avenging his son. But here's the thought. Why didn't he take care of the kid from the fucking beginning? All of a sudden you're upset. You're like, how dare they do this to my son? Why do you even care? You didn't even care enough to stick by him as a child when he... I don't know the circumstances. They don't go into it. But it would lead me to believe that he essentially just took off on the boy. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm so enraged about this kid I didn't give a shit about in the first place, and I'm going to put on a mask and murder tons of people. Something suggests to me that something was wrong with this guy prior to his son's death. Much like Pam, there was definitely something wrong with her way before Jason, all the events happened with him. Part 4 really wasn't the final recap. We lived through the entire movie series and all the kills. that are so similar to the previous 4, which I get. I understand that's what he's going for. But, you know, it does keep consistent, but a little variety would be nice. I can't believe I'm using the word variety in a slasher film. I mean, they're so cookie cutter. And so, again, this film parallels the first one. Because, again, it's a parent seeking revenge for a child. The kills are essentially a cover of the last 4 movies and the type of kills that happened then. Again, I hate having to reiterate this, but I realize it's his MO and that's what he's going for. So maybe this is kind of like a celebration movie. And after Jason does come back in part 6, this serves as a perfect transition movie from his demise, his burial defeated, and then comes Jason Lives. So Jason Lives, generic but deserving and appropriate title. But this movie, A New Beginning. So New Beginning of what? The fact that we're taking it out of Crystal Lake, except for part 6 where it's forest green, and then after that he's back at somewhere near Crystal. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know the proximity of these places and how close they are to each other or whatever. It makes no sense that I talked about in the previous review how nobody knows what's going on, and this is like shocking to them. It's like, man, another killing, and this is about a Jason guy. Please explain this to me. Because who is he? He did that down the frickin' block, or it's a country, a mile. You'd hear about it. It's not some big mystery of like they're sitting around a campfire. Did you know the population of this town is 900? But 200 have been killed by... Have you heard of that? No, I haven't heard of it. Tell me more. Like, obviously everybody knows about this. So, anyways, the title itself, I think it's well-deserving. But my overall conclusion, this is what I think.
So, overall, it fits fine in this series. It certainly doesn't have that same feel that the original 4 did. That goes without saying. But the movie itself, it's pretty solid. Removing Jason from it does sap a lot of the juice from this, more so when you're looking at it retrospectively now, looking back at it 30 years later, sure. But at the time, I don't know, you're moving through the movie pretty good, and yeah, at the end it's not Jason, a little disappointing. I disagree that this is a bad film, which I hear more often than praise for the film. Does it fit? Well, if it stayed at part 5, I'd say it wouldn't. But since the Jarvis trilogy carries over into the next film, it fits just fine. In fact, you can consider it a transitional film. So, that being said, it's the same old stuff with a flip story, and it focuses more about Tommy's bizarre journey, which I actually think that they should have spent more time on that, as opposed to flip-flopping between the kills and the rather uninteresting characters. But that's really what the movie's about, so as a transition, not bad. One thing about the end of this movie, though, does Tommy kill Pam at the end? What the hell kind of ending is this? Is he that nuts at the end that... I don't know. How is he relatively back to normal in part 6? I mean, did he kill her? What? Back to normal? I don't know. I'm so lost. It's pretty ambiguous. I guess he didn't kill her because he wouldn't be out of a mental institution a couple years later type of thing. But it's just a bizarre way to end the movie, and it never gets addressed again. Kind of like Halloween Part 4. I keep making those Halloween references. But honestly, he puts up the knife at the end and after his dream and all that, and then he holds up the knife. It looks like he's going to kill her. He's lost his marbles. And then Part 6, they just drop it. It's just completely gone from the storyline. So, kind of a bad way to end the movie, but fine, fair enough. I still think it's pretty solid. To sum up, the film does feel like the odd one out. After the first 4, they just seem to try a little too hard to make something new. I love to try new things though, but maybe there was a better Part 5 story out there, and I'm pretty sure most people agree. I think we can agree on that, but it's not a bad movie. Anyways, turn in for the finale of the Jarvis trilogy next. Thanks for watching, take care.
You big dildo.
Shh.